Namaste, Dhanava Pranam. By the instruction and grace of our spiritual master on Vishnupad Paramahamsa, Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj, we are here reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 3, the status quo, chapter 33, text 10. Kapila Uvacha Marganena Mataste Susheveno Ditena Me Astitena Param Kastam Achirad Avarotyasi. The personality of Godhead said, "My dear mother, the path of self-realization, which I have already instructed to you, is very easy. You can execute this system without difficulty, and by following it, you shall very soon be liberated, even within your present body." Purport. Devotional service is so perfect that simply by following the rules and regulations and executing them under the direction of the spiritual master, one is liberated, as it has been said herein, from the clutches of Maya, even in this body. In other yogic processes or in empiric philosophical speculation, one is never certain whether or not he is at the perfectional stage. But in the discharge of devotional service, if one has unflinching faith in the instruction of the bona fide spiritual master and follows the rules and regulations, he is sure to be liberated, even within this present body. Srila Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu has also confirmed this, Iha Yasya Hare Dasye. Regardless of where he is situated, anyone whose only aim is to serve the Supreme Lord under the direction of the spiritual master is called Jivan Mukta, or one who is liberated even with his material body. Sometimes doubts arise in the minds of neophytes about whether or not the spiritual master is liberated, and sometimes neophytes are doubtful about the bodily affairs of the spiritual master. The point of liberation, however, is not to see the bodily symptoms of the spiritual master. One has to see the spiritual symptoms of the spiritual master. Jivan Mukta means that even though one is in a material body, there are still some material necessities since the body is material. But because one is fully situated in the service of the Lord, he should be understood to be liberated. Liberation entails being situated in one's own position. That is the definition in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Muktir Swarupena Vyavastiti. The Svarupa, or actual identity of the living entity, is described by Lord Chaitanya, Jivara Svarupoi Krishnara Nityadas. The real identity of the living entity is that he is eternally a servitor of the Supreme Lord. If someone is 100% engaged in the service of the Lord, he is to be understood as liberated. One must understand whether or not he is liberated by his activities in devotional service, not by other symptoms. Text 11. Shradhatsa Vaitan Matam Hayam Justam Yad Brahma Varivi Yena Mam Abhayam Yaya Mrityum Richantya Tadvidha. My dear mother, those who are actually transcendentalists certainly follow my instructions, as I have given them to you. You may rest assured that if you traverse this path of self-realization perfectly, surely you shall be freed from fearful material contamination and shall ultimately reach me. Mother, persons who are not conversant with this method of devotional service certainly cannot get out of the cycle of birth and death. Purport. Material existence is full of anxiety, and therefore it is fearful. One who gets out of this material existence automatically becomes free from all anxieties and fear. One who follows the path of devotional service enunciated by Lord Kapila is very easily liberated. Text 12. Maitreya Uvacha Iti Pradharsya Bhagavan Satim Tam Atmanogatim Samatra Brahma Vidinya Kapilo Numato Yayo. Sri Maitreya said, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Kapila after instructing his beloved mother, took permission from her and left his home, his mission having been fulfilled. Purport. The mission of the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of Kapila was to distribute the transcendental knowledge of Sankhya philosophy, which is full of devotional service. Having imparted that knowledge to his mother, and through his mother to the world, Kapila Dev had no more need to stay at home. So he took permission from his mother and left. Apparently, he left home for spiritual realization, although he had nothing to realize spiritually because he himself is the person to be spiritually realized. Therefore, this is an example set by the Supreme Personality of Godhead while acting like an ordinary human being, so that others might learn from him. He could, of course, have stayed with his mother, but he indicated that there is no need to stay with the family. It is best to remain alone as a brahmachari, sannyasi, or vanaprastha and cultivate Krishna consciousness throughout one's whole life. Those who are unable to remain alone are given license to live in a household life with wife and children, not for sense gratification, but for cultivation of Krishna consciousness. Text 13. Sachapitana yoktena yogadeshena yogayuk tasmin ashrama pide sarasvatya samahita. As situated by her son, as instructed by her son, Devahuti also began to practice bhakti yoga in that very ashram. She practiced samadhi in the house of Kardama Muni, which was so beautifully decorated with flowers that it was considered the flower crown of the river Saraswati. Purport. Devahuti did not leave her house, because it is never recommended for a woman to leave her home. She is dependent. That very example of Devahuti was that when she was not married, she was under the care of her father, Swayambhuva Manu, and then Swayambhuva Manu gave her to Kardama Muni in charity. She was under the care of her husband in her youth, and then her son, Kapila Muni, was born. As soon as her son grew up, her husband left home, and similarly the son, after discharging his duty towards his mother, also left. She could have left home, but she did not. Rather, she remained at home and began to practice bhakti yoga as it was instructed by her great son, Kapila Muni. And because of her practice of bhakti yoga, the entire home became just like a flower crown on the river Saraswati. Text 14. Abhikshinavaga Abhikshnavaga kapisam Jatilan kutilalakan Atmanam kogratapasa Bibrati chirinham krisham. She began to bathe 3 times daily, and thus her curling black hair gradually became gray. Due to austerity, her body gradually became thin, and she wore old garments. Purport. It is the practice of the yogi, brahmachari, vanaprastha, and sannyasi to bathe at least 3 times daily, early in the morning, during noontime, and in the evening. These principles are strictly followed, even by some grihastas, especially brahmanas, who are elevated in spiritual consciousness. Devahuti was a king's daughter and almost a king's wife, too. Although Kardama Muni was not a king, by his mystic yoga power, he accommodated Devahuti very comfortably in a nice palace with maidservants and all opulence. But since she had learned austerity, even in the presence of her husband, there was no difficulty for her to be austere. Still, because her body underwent severe austerity after the departure of her husband and son, she became thin. To be too fat is not very good for spiritually advanced life. Rather, one should reduce, because if one becomes fat, it is an impediment to progress in spiritual understanding. One should be careful not to eat too much, sleep too much, or remain in a comfortable position. Voluntarily accepting some penances and difficulties, one should take less food and sleep less. These are the procedures for practicing any kind of yoga, whether bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, or hatha yoga. Text 15. Prajapate Kardhamasya Tapo Yoga Vrijimbitam Swagarhastyam Ananopyam Pratyam Vaimani Karapi. The home and household paraphernalia of Kardama, who was one of the Prajapatis, was developed in such a way by dint of his mystic powers of austerity and yoga that his opulence was sometimes envied by those who travel in outer space airplanes. Purport. The statement in this verse that Kardama Muni's household affairs were envied even by persons who travel in outer space refers to the denizens of heaven. Their airships were not like those we have invented in the modern age, which fly only from one country to another. Their airplanes were capable of going from one planet to another. There are many such statements in the Srimad Bhagavatam from which we can understand that there were facilities to travel from one planet to another, especially in the higher planetary system. And who can say that they are still not traveled? The speed of our airplanes and our space vehicles is very limited. But as we have already studied, Kardama Muni traveled in outer space in an airplane which was like a city, and he journeyed to see all the different heavenly planets. That was not an ordinary airplane, nor was it an ordinary space travel. Because Kardama Muni was such a powerful mystic yogi, his opulence was envied by the denizens of heaven. Text 16. Payafena nibhasaya dantarukma parichada asani cha aimani sushparashastaranani cha. The opulence of the household of Kardama Muni is described herein. The bed sheets and mattresses were all as white as the foam of milk. The chairs and benches were made of ivory and were covered by cloths of lace with golden filigree, and the couches were made of gold and had very soft pillows. 17. Svachasvatika kudyeshu mahamharakateshu cha ratna pradipa bhananti lalhana ratna samyuta. The walls of the house were made of first-class marble decorated with valuable jewels. There was no need of light, for the household was illuminated by the rays of these jewels. The female members of the household were all amply decorated with jewelry. Purport. It is understood from this statement that the opulences of household life were exhibited in valuable jewels, ivory, first-class marble, and furniture made of gold and jewels. The clothes are also mentioned as being decorated with gold filigree. Everything actually had some value. It was not like the furniture of the present day, which is cast in valueless plastic or base metal. The way of Vedic civilization is that whatever was used in household affairs had to be valuable. In case of need, such items of value could be exchanged immediately. Thus, one's broken and unwanted furniture and paraphernalia would never be without value. This system is still followed by Indians in household affairs. They keep metal utensils and gold ornaments or silver plates and valuable silk garments with gold embroidery. And in case of need, they have some money in exchange immediately. There are exchanges for the money lenders and the householders. Text 18. Rodhyanam kushumitai ramyam bhavamara drumahi Ujadvihanga mitunam gayanmata mudhuvrtam. The compound of the main household was surrounded by beautiful gardens with sweet, fragrant flowers, and many trees which produced fresh fruit were tall and beautiful. The attraction of such gardens was that singing birds would sit on the trees, and their chanting voices, as well as the humming sound of the bees, made the whole atmosphere as pleasing as possible. And thus ends our reading for today. We'll continue from text 19 on Wednesday. Were there any comments or questions from the assembled devotees and participants? Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj ki Jai. Jai Srila Prabhupada, Srila
Jai.
Guru Maharaj, Srila Gurudev, Srila Acharya Dev, Srila Shanta Maharaj ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Rupanuga Guru Varga ki Jai. All glories to the
Jai.
assembled devotees, all glories to the worldwide devotees. Sama Bhaktivedanta Vrinda ki Jai. Jai
Jai.
Navadvip Dham ki Jai, Nishangapali Dham ki Jai,
Jai.
Mayapur Dham ki Jai,
Jai.
Jagannath Puri
Jai.
Dham ki Jai, Jagannath Bali
Jai.
Subhadra Ju ki Jai, Ganga Mai Yamuna
Jai.
Mai ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham ki Jai, Giri
Jai.
Govardhan Gupta Govardhan
Jai.
Dham ki Jai, Sham Kund Radha Kund ki
Jai.
Jai, Tulsi Devi Bhakti
Jai.
Devi, Vrinda Devi ki Jai, Jai Harinam
Jai.
Sankirtan Yagya ki Jai, Srimad Bhagavatam
Jai.
ki Jai, Scientific Sankirtan
Jai.
Yagya ki Jai, Nitai
Jai.
Gaur Premanandi, Hari 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 Bol.
Hare Hare Bol.
Jai Shrimati Uma Devi Dasi ki Jai.
Jai
Hare
Gurudev.
Krishna.
Sripad Krishna Keshav Prabhu Ji ki Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Nice to have you join us, Arpit.
Yep, great. Thank you. Thanks for doing this.
We're very happy to. By the grace of our Gurudev, we try to do this every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We do for a while. We've been doing it. So
Great.
you're welcome anytime.
Yep, thank you. We'll try to join as much as I can.
All right.
All
Hare
right.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.